Hello, Tony. Well, here's some video from our session the other day, which I really enjoyed, by the way. Enjoyed our little foursome afterwards. Too bad we didn't get to finish, but we'll do it again. And hopefully we'll do this some more of this work on your drivers again as well. So here's the caddy view of your original swing and the down the line view of the swing that we saw when we first got there. And I have to admit that these are two of the swings, these two perspectives where you did hit your standard miss, which is that low left draw. So I'll let you watch them here, and then we can then I'll analyze them a little bit. We'll make some suggestions and talk about where we go from here. Let's see. There we go. Super slow-mo. So my objective most of the time in dealing with, in working with people on their swings, is to eliminate as many of the extraneous moving parts as possible. We obviously know that the most crucial point in the swing is the moment of impact, and history and the latest machines have told us what that moment of impact ought to look like. The head should be directly over the ball. The hand should be in front of the club head, and with the driver here, we now know that it should be at least level or probably hitting up on the ball. In other words, the impact should be in front of the low point of the swing. And all the weight should be on the left side. The hips should be turned about 30 degrees open, and there ought to be that thrusting of the hips forward to get to the moment of impact. So that's pretty standard. I mean, we know that that's the way impact ought to be. The question is, how do you get there? Now, there's obviously a lot of different ways to get there. And a lot of people, of course, point immediately to Jim Furyk and say, well, look at that swing. I mean, that's not a standard swing, but yet he's a pro. And, Freddie Couples and people like that, Lee Trevino. But, these guys hit 1,000 balls a day. So, it's a little bit easier to have a lot of variety to a standard swing if you're practicing that much. Whereas us, we don't get to play that much, so that's why I concentrate on trying to make it as easy as possible to get into that impact position, or a correct impact position at that point, and do that by removing any extraneous movements or moving parts. So that's your caddy view swing. Here's the down the line swing. This one plays a little faster. And as you can see, that ball went out and low and turned left. In fact, after that shot, you made your typical hand gesture. It's like that snap, That's your version of the snap, meaning that's your standard miss. That's what you struggle with. So let's analyze these swings a little bit here. Start over here. So when you start your backswing, let's draw a little diagram to enclose you in the with your head and your shoulders inside of some markers here. So as you start your backswing here, first, by the way, the first thing I noticed, which I didn't notice before, is that your club actually hits the ground on the way back. And it does that every time. I suppose you probably know that. I didn't. I didn't even notice it when we were out there. But this is sort of, there are actually pros that do line up like that. That's their address position right there. But you don't really. Nothing really moves from the time that you start swinging that club backwards to there. Your body looks very still at that point. So if we move through here, you can see your head stays pretty much centered. It does drift back a little bit, and you can kind of see that your weight pushes back on the right side, but it's really not as bad as I thought it was going to look on the video. It's not, there is that slight little push to the right side, and you can see your weight coming off the left foot. But your head doesn't move that much. But here is where your head really changes. Now this position right here is not a bad looking position. You can see your weight moving over to the left side, but your head is moving way off it. Now that's a movement that I would like to see you get rid of, because in fact, if you would start, that's what I always tell people, is let's start with the impact position and work our way back. So if you start with your head right here and not move it at all, so start with your head here at address and then make your swing, then it's a lot easier to get back to a good position. This is actually a pretty good position right here, as your head is behind the ball, your weight is moving forward, and the only thing that makes this not look that great on video is where you have to come from to get there. Well, that's a tremendous move in a lot of parts of the body, the upper center, as we've been referring it to get back to that particular part every time at the same exact spot. That's very difficult. It would be much easier if you started there and then kept your head right there, like we did with the noodle when I was holding onto your head. The other thing that's interesting is that watch what happens when you see how the club head is coming down into the ball, and then look at this at impact. It's pretty good. You're not hitting up on it, but you're hitting straight on it. But you obviously hit on the low part of the club. Look what happens to the club. This is another thing that look at that. That's another thing that we should probably take a look at in terms of the shaft that you're using. That's a lot of, maybe it needs more torque to keep that from happening. Although I think if you hit it more in the center of the club, that wouldn't happen as much. But watch your hands. See your hands. Your hands don't change that much in terms of rolling over at that point. But look at the club. Well, it's no wonder that you're hitting it low, of course. Look at that. It's no wonder that you're hitting it low with that strike on such a low part of the club. And so, anyway, and then at that point, it's you do flatten out considerably, as we talked about. Your shoulders are almost parallel when it gets to the end of the swing. Over here, back to this. Over here, we'll draw a circle around your head to see. And then some lines down your spine here. This is right before you start to swing. So, at this point, there's that hit on the ground again there on the way back. So all that looks very nice, very nice. The takeaway is a little bit low in my opinion, but once again, I'm more worried about the impact position and getting back there. Remember when I told you how you were starting in one place, and then when you get to the back, look how far you lean forward. Your whole body leans forward. So, as in over here, if you start with your head here and then get back to that place, it's going to be easier. It's going to be easier for you because from then on, it's fairly well. Of course, at this place, you're almost falling over forward here. You can see. So it would help that a lot to not make this move all the way forward, because then you just sort of want to keep going. And of course, if you're keeping going here, look at what happens to the club here. Look at that club turnover. So basically what you've got is the old, no offense here, but the old-fashioned swing, where you used to load up on the right side and then fling the club at the ball. That's how they used to tell you. That's the way you get power, is if you load your weight on the right side and then you fling the club at the ball. Well, maybe pros back in the day could do that once again because they practiced all the time. But this is definitely not the most efficient way to hit a ball nowadays. The most efficient way is like we were talking about, is to practice this position past the ball. Practice getting that position past the ball, and at that point you would never have this club this closed. You would never have. Look at your wrists here. Watch your wrists. I mean, it's just like boom, rolling over, boom. So the position past the ball out here, these wrists should still be that left wrist should be a little bit bowed, and the club should still be facing the target or right of the target for a push draw. So that's what's causing this hitting low on the club, and that turnover, that rollover right there, is what's causing that ball to go out low and left like that. So so that's why I was trying to get us to the point where we were concentrating primarily on the head, itself. So in other words, if I move all of these lines here, let me just move all of these lines so that I draw the circle around your head from here. Now watch what happens. Beautiful. See? So why not start that way? Why get all back here and then try and get back to that? So address position versus impact position is kind of an important thing in terms of trying to keep your head steady. Okay, so think about that. And then the other thing that I just wanted to show you here, and I'm not saying that I want to make a change here, but it would definitely be easier for you. Normally nowadays the swing plane is considered to be somewhere in between your belt and your shoulder here from the ball, but you notice here that your hands sort of are on that bottom line coming up, but they're a little bit. You could change your backswing to be a little bit higher. Then when you come back down, you come down the top line. So there is a lot of movement there in terms of, and of course a lot of that has to do with the fact that you're bending forward right there. So you're coming up. Your backswing is when you're standing up straight, and your downswing is when you're leaning way forward. So that there's a lot of movement going on in those hands in terms of where they go up versus where they come down. You see that coming down right in the middle of your bicep right there, which is perfect. That's good. We like that. But going up, they're going up in the middle of your elbow. And consequently, on the other side, when you come out on the other side, the hands come out more at the elbow than they do at the bicep. We'd rather see them up in here when they come out. So that's from that flipping them over. Look at how much you flipped your hands over here. So the process of eliminating all that movement is what keeping the head steady is all about. That's what we talked about, and boy, you hit some great shots in the game that we played afterwards. And it wouldn't surprise me if you would be willing to trade 5 or 10 yards that might come off your swing by not having that loading up on the right in order to hit it in the fairway every time by keeping your head totally steady. So that's my suggestion to you, is to work on changing your address position to it being more of where you're going to end up at impact, so that you don't have to move around a lot and make a lot of extraneous movements to add chaos to the point of impact, since we don't have time to do a lot of practicing. I did, whoever was using the camera, whoever was running the camera really screwed up in the end in terms of capturing your final shots after we had worked on it. We call that ESO, equipment smarter than operator. That's me. And so as a result, you're finished. The final swing recording looks like this. Perfect. So I think I had it set at set a time lapse instead of slow mo. But anyway, look at this. This is when you take your practice swing. Look at this when you take your practice swing. I don't have all the frames, obviously, since it was in time lapse. But this impact position is beautiful right there. Look at that. That's what you're going for. But of course, you have to be more bent over. You can't. Your real swing can't be that standing up that much because you got to get down to the ball. So, but here in this sequence of frames right here, there, you can see that your head is still. Even these were the shots that you hit afterwards that were good. You have moved your hips further forward here, like we talked about. So that's good. That you slid your hips forward. It could even be more, but the turn is great. The slide could be even more, so that your head stays back over the ball, and that would be great. So, and that's compared to, let's see, this was when we started. So you can see you have pushed your hips a little bit more forward in this picture. And your weight, I can tell, is much more on the left side than it was here when you first started. Okay, so let's get this back up to there. So that's the thing to continue working on, sliding those hips out so that your head stays, so that you do more right tilting, so that your head stays directly over the ball at the moment of impact, and think about the point past the ball. Practice getting to that point past the ball with your head still steady without moving your whole upper center forward like it has moved here forward of where it started. So those things will probably help. Let me know what you think, and whether you want to do some more filming. I could certainly do some filming of your current swing if you've made some significant changes, and take it from there. And I promise to get the camera right this time. All right? Okay. Thanks, Tony.